We record. Okay. Hello. Good morning. I'm saying good morning now because, well, when I started, at least came up here, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. But all right, y'all, let's rock. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of the Inside Perspective, where we intentionally learn, experience, and grow. So for today's episode, it's for the self-aware girlies because we can be a little bit too smart for our feelings, and it doesn't really allow us to feel. And so for me, I really wanted to do this episode because I am one of those self-aware girlies. I am a person that understands and is so intelligent and is so aware of my feelings that sometimes I don't really I make sense of it so fast. I don't even allow myself to be mad. I don't allow myself to be pissed off. I don't even give myself a chance to get there because I'm already so solution oriented and just jumping to the solution. And so literally yesterday, because I was just so sick of feeling like I don't let myself feel. Like I can literally think about a situation that recently happened that has hurt me, and I'll just be like, they did that because of this and XYZ. So, and it's like, girl, no. There's like two people inside of me. The one girl is like, okay, yeah, this happened. She's used to doing things. And then there's this new bitch that stepped in as a recent, and I love her. And she's just like, no, they had you fucked up. And I was hurtful. And I was wrong. How are we feeling about that? And then there's me, and they're like, and so I reached out to a therapist, and a somatic therapist specifically, because they are individuals who work with individuals with complex PTSD, and they teach you how to be present in your body. Deion Sanders, I think there's a tweet by him or from him, I can't remember 1,000% sure, but it says, be where your feet are, stay where your feet are. And that's something that I'm working on, because I am not always as present as I would want to be in my body, and it can be very frustrating. But I have been giving myself a lot of grace to understand that this new practice is new, and I have to give myself the chance to be in it and to figure out what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what I need to change. And what I found out that I don't like about it is the fact that I don't feel my feelings. And I'm not gonna hold y'all. Once I had left the message on the potential therapist line, I felt so defeated. Because I'm literally on this woman's voice message, like crying, asking for help. And it's just like, damn, this shit is serious. Like, my body really does want this. My body really does need this. And so I need to learn how to feel my feelings so I can be there and actually support my body and myself, because I am so used to intellectualizing everything. Like, I am y'all see the amount of books, like this is just one of the places where I keep all my books, and I learned so much about how to do the work, how to understand what happened to you, like all these books, bro. And that's great that I'm able to learn and understand that, but it doesn't really help my body in processing what has occurred. So that was why I wanted to reach out to a therapist, because I wanted to learn how to allow my feelings to serve their purpose. And so I'm hoping she calls me back today, Buki, so I can get into the thick of things. And so this would be my first time seeing a somatic therapist. I was in therapy, y'all know, for like almost 7 years of my life, talk therapy, which is great. Like, I needed that. But now learning how to be present in my body consistently, because I do have my moments, especially right now when I'm here with y'all, like very present. Sometimes my mind can wander, but if y'all see me do this, it's because I'm bringing my spirit back to me to be present and to be open, and to be vulnerable with not only myself, but with you all. Because I feel like that's really important, and a big part of being present is that you kind of have to be vulnerable with what you have sitting in front of you. So Yeah. Let me give me another sip of tea because, like I said, y'all, it's early. But I love being up this early. I feel like that y'all could probably hear my beanbag in the back, and all I'm going to say is, I'm sorry. But to continue, as you already know, it's season 2, so we come in with the new segments. So one of the segments that I'm introducing right now is called Art at the Moment. And Art at the Moment is about any form of art that has inspired me or helped me through something or helped me feel something, since we're talking about feeling our feelings. And so the first song is, I have my notes on my other iPad. This is my problem. I got too many damn electronics. But the first song is called 2 Hours by Toby Lou featuring T-Pain. And it's the one, like, I like the one without T-Pain too, but the one with T-Pain, there's a bar that T-Pain has, and I'm like, yes. So to get into it, I really like this song because I like the beat. I like me a smooth beat, and I enjoy storytelling. And I felt like this man was going to tell me a story because he already started the song off with, I just spent 2 hours. I just spent 2 hours. And I'm like, 2 hours doing what, you know? And then whenever, you know, the bass and everything comes in, and he was like, you know, I just spent 2 hours crying. And I was like, oh. But then he was like, I just spent 2 hours crying, but how could you know that when all you see is me smiling like I work for Kodak? What, bro? What? And it really, really made me, like, it took me back to, like, so many different people that will always tell me, like, oh, your smile makes me feel good, or your smile makes me feel better, and this, that, and the third. And it just made me think about how complex life can be, because there were so many times where I felt like utter shit. Like, I felt bad or down. Because it's funny, when it comes to feeling your feelings, it's almost like you don't want to feel the good feelings or, like, the bad ones, too. I don't know, because it's like I felt my feelings but didn't know what to do with them, so then I just really harnessed myself in gratitude. And so with gratitude came joy for me, but it didn't change the fact that I was still hurting inside, which is something that I'm literally learning now, like presently learning, like, yeah, I'm very good at what I do. It's almost like, I think they call it like functional freeze or like some type of something. I know I have high functioning depression and anxiety. That was clear. But I always used to think that if I was struggling, that meant like, if I was struggling to get my work done, then I was struggling to be present and to smile, that would be the huge indicator that something was wrong. But I was still able to walk around and smile, like, and be happy and be joyous. And I think because I got so caught up in that, I started to negate or even neglect the fact that I actually was sad. I was sad. I was like fighting every day with myself to discover myself. Like, I wanted to be more than just what I was experiencing. And it was hard. It was hard to really sit with that because everybody around me always made it seem like I had everything. Like, I had all the stuff. I had all the, but I'm like, a lot of this stuff was like material things. Like, I didn't feel like I had myself. I didn't feel like I trusted myself. So it's like, none of this shit, the iPad, the phones, the mics, the cameras, like, none of that matters if I don't even feel like I got me. You know what I mean? And then it's like, whenever you start throwing in the bullshit with other people, like, he has another bar, it's getting hard to hold back these tears. It got to a point that I didn't cry for almost 5.5 years, unless I was injured playing basketball. I didn't cry for 5 years. And at a certain point, it started to get hard to hold back these tears because they had nowhere else to go. I had built the wall up so high that it was like, girl, you gonna have to cry. And I'll never forget the one day I boo-hooed cried. It was like 6 years of crying just coming out at one point. I was like, oh, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hated it. I did not like it. It felt so wrong to cry. And I was like, dog, this is a natural human experience. Like, we have tear ducts. We are to cry. If you have tear ducts, you are to cry. And that's why I love this song so much, because I'm sitting there in my bag listening to this man. Like, I believe he's talking about a breakup, but even if individuals are talking about, like, in their songs, breakups with other people, I also see it like a breakup within myself. So I'm like, it's getting hard to hold back these tears because I'm not showing up for me. I'm showing up for how I expect others to perceive me. It's not for me. And it just started to really fucking hurt. And that's why T-Pain's bar hits not only just for me talking about myself, but then me also interacting with other individuals. Breakups I've had, interactions I've had with people. T-Pain hits us with the, I want some change I can actually see with my very own eyes. And I feel like we want that for ourselves. Like, we want to just start, working out twice at the gym and immediately see, a six pack. And that's just not going to happen. But then we also hold people so high to a standard that we want them to change so quickly. And we have to give grace and allow them time to walk into the new person that they want to be. But then there's also like the abuse of that. Someone that keeps telling you they're going to change, keeps telling you they're going to do something different, keeps telling you they're going to act a way different. And it's like, damn, I want to see that shit with my eyes. You keep talking to me about it, but I want to see it with my eyes. Of course, my battery dies before I even really get into it. I actually think there's something wrong with that battery specifically. And so hearing people making music like that really helps me feel less alone. Like, it really, and it really helps me to see that the emotions that I'm experiencing are not singular. It is not just a personal experience. Of course I'm having my personal experience, but people are also having this experience. Like, I want some change I can actually see with my very own eyes. I scream that. I scream it every time it comes on. I scream that part because it's so real. It's so real. I want some change that I can actually see with my very own eyes. Because it's like, I also want that for myself. Because what am I doing that's not allowing me to be successful? That's not allowing me to be my healthiest self. That's not allowing me to be my favorite self. I look myself in the mirror and say, I want some change I can actually see with my very own eyes. That's important. That is important. And so that's why I love music. I love music. And so the next song that I'm going to go into is called Deserve by Jay Howe. And the very first time I heard this song, I just went through a pretty big breakup. And saying or even telling this person that they didn't deserve my love, that they didn't deserve me, and then hearing this song, it was hard. It was really hard, but this is why I love music, because it helps me process. It helps me see things. It helps me understand things. Because there's a line in this song, and he literally says, how many times do I have to fight to give my love? How many times? And why do I have to fight? I'm like, Jay, please. Because it sucks whenever you feel like you're not enough, or if you're giving too much, or if you're putting so much in and you're really not getting that back. Like, or if someone's literally telling you like you're doing too much or you are too much, that is a shitty feeling. I've been told this many of times. You're too this, you're too that, or you're not enough of this, or you're not enough of that. And when I learned, I was with the wrong person, ultimately. Like, anybody who said that I'm too much just didn't have big enough hands or big enough of a brain. That had nothing to do with me. And that's okay if we're not for each other. But hearing that, like, how many times I gotta fight to give my love. And then the next one, and another part of the song, this man said, gave it my all, but you wanted whatever. Guess I'm too much. But these are songs that I've been listening to as I'm going through friendship breakups. I'm giving myself the opportunity to really feel everything that came from that. And then also already having the knowledge of knowing when something was going to happen, but having hope and trust that it was going to be different. It's almost like a slap in the face. Like, I'm never going to make myself feel bad for not knowing something, but I am definitely going to hold myself accountable for whenever I knew something was going to happen and I didn't do anything. And so when it comes to breakups in general or disagreements in general, where I feel like I'm standing in my feelings and I'm standing in my truth and that wasn't enough, then you don't deserve me. You don't deserve me. And so learning that what I have to offer is worth it, is genuinely worth it to the right individual, of course made me feel good, but then still knowing that there were so many people in my life that weren't that. And now I'm navigating those feelings from those interactions and from those experiences. It takes strength and it takes a lot of honesty, because I'm always going to be a big person of what part did I play? What behavior did I allow? And that's why I literally just said, I won't hold myself to the fire for something that I didn't know, but for some shit that I did and then it happened, I'd be like, damn it. But everything is something to learn from. Oh, that's the garbage man. I'm like, what the hell is that? I thought my heat was kicking on. I'm like, it's 70 degrees outside. Okay, my bad, y'all. But yeah, everything is something to learn from. And so that's what I check it up to be. And I use music and different forms of art to support me through that. So thank you for joining me on Art of the Moment during this segment of the podcast. And so now when it comes to the feelings, it's time to get into these notes, y'all. I took notes for this. Like, went to the American Psychological Association, the APA, okay, to get defined notes, right? And so this is a part of the show that I call the science behind it, right? So this is the science behind what our emotions are. So I'm going to start off with the definition from APA. According to the American Psychological Association, APA, emotion is a complex reaction pattern involving experiential, behavioral, and psychological elements. Emotions are how individuals deal with matters or situations they find personally significant. Emotional experiences have three components: a subjective experience, a physiological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. So my brain understood that as there's three parts of emotions: the subjective, the physiological response, and the behavioral response. So the subjective response is something happens and there's multiple ways to feel about it, right? So my brain, of course, came up with death. So a death happens. One person could be experiencing deep sorrow, sadness, while another person could be relieved. It's a subjective experience. One person feels one way, one person feels another. So that's one part of emotion. The second part, which I feel a lot of us pay attention to a lot, is the physiological response. So when something is happening in your body, like your heart rate goes up, your palms are sweaty, you're feeling tension in your body, this is a response from the autonomic nervous system. I always want to say autotomic. I don't know what that is, but it's a response from the autonomic nervous system, and it's a reaction to the emotion that you're experiencing. And this is something specific that I wanted to make sure I highlighted for y'all. So the autonomic nervous system controls our involuntary bodily responses and regulates our fight or flight response. According to many psychologists, our physiological responses are likely how emotion helped us evolve and survive as humans throughout history. So I found that really interesting because I always think about how fear can protect us, but it also can stop us for something if we're making up this level of fear in our mind. So jumping off of a cliff with nothing to have on you, no parachute, no nothing, no windsuit, it's just you and your body jumping off a cliff, your brain would let you know that that's scary and that is fear, and to not do that. Or if you did do it, somebody else seen you do it, they're gonna know that I'm not gonna do that because that's scary and that motherfucker died. So that's things that help us evolve as humans. So that physiological response. I always think about whenever I used to play basketball, I I used to be so fucking nervous all the time. Like, and that's what let me know when I got older that I genuinely had generalized anxiety. Because there's no reason why I'm about to start playing this game and I already done shit, pre-game shits. I already done did that, had the shits. It's hard to breathe. My heart is racing. I'm already sweating and we're not even warming up. So that was my physiological response to us having a game. And the game is the subjective response the game is the subjective part of emotion, because I had teammates that was geeking to play, ready to get on the court, excited to get on the court. But then there's me, terrified. And so the behavioral response is the way you act. It's the way you act. Your behavioral response is the actual expression of that emotion. So, for example, a laugh or a smile. You see something, you see a cute baby. If you like babies, me, puppies, I'm going to be excited. You're going to get a smile from me. And so a lot of our behavioral responses is based on our personality, but also on society. Like, social media plays a huge part in this, just how people respond. Like if there's a certain response that you've seen somebody have on a video on TikTok, and then you start responding that way. Or it's like whenever we talked about when our eyebrows was looking good, we was talking about our shits was on fleek. Everybody was doing that. That was a behavioral response. So did that make sense to y'all? Y'all want me to go back over it? So even if we go back to the game, right? So the subjective response, brain, slow down. The subjective experience, the basketball game, that people can feel two different ways about. So exactly, me, I was nervous for my game or anxious about my games. Some of my teammates were excited about my games. Their physiological responses was that hype. They, get jumping rope, getting loose before the game, doing their stretches before we get on the court to do our warm up. Me, I was trying to meditate to calm my fucking body down, because I was trying to get my body to understand that we weren't being attacked by a bear, that we were actually going to go have a fun game or a competitive game of basketball. And so then the behavioral response, some of my teammates, they would go off on the court, double doubles, triple doubles. And then there's me just hoping I don't turn the ball over. And so that is how we break down the three parts of emotion: subjective, the physiological response, and the behavioral response. And so, of course, there is basic and complex emotions. The basic emotions are emotions that you can see whenever somebody happens, right? So if you're in the line, if you're checking out at Walmart and you see there's only one motherfucking line open, and you're going to be like, and you can see that. Somebody could see that reaction on your face and tell you're annoyed. Or if you see a baby and you smile, you're happy. But complex emotions are whenever there's two or more emotions at play. So grief, jealousy, regret. There's underlying emotions that are still happening on that. Like, for example, technically anger is a secondary emotion. I wish I actually would have went into primary, secondary, tertiary. Maybe that's some shit that we can work on together, y'all. I have a post about it. But yeah, anger is a secondary emotion because first you're hurt. Then you're angry. So that's it can be a very complex emotion. And so to continue the emotion talk, right? I want to get into the theories of emotion, because some of these people, I know it did not delete my shit. Hold on, y'all. Doobie-doobie-doo-wah. No color, but can I get color, please? Gracias. Gracias. It's like, no, I'm playing my Spanish speakers. I'm playing. But yes, getting into the theories of emotion. So there is the James Lang theory, which basically says that there's a stimulus that then leads to the physiological response that then leads you to a particular emotion. So there's three parts to it. So like how they break down the basics of what an emotional response is. Because then the three parts of emotion, but then this is like theories of emotions too. So there's a stimulus, physiological response, the emotion. But the Cannon-Bard theory says that there's a stimulus event that triggers feelings and the physiological response at the same time. So like if you see a snake, you feel both the fear and your heart racing and you're taking off. But the James Lange theory feels like, nope, it's a 3-step process. So I feel like I be going back and forth, right? And I feel like both of these theories are true, but it's situational. Because there's times where I feel like people have you fucked up, and then you realize they have you fucked up, and then you react to the fact that they had you fucked up. Like, it doesn't always happen, like, but then there's other times it's like somebody got you fucked up, and then you're feeling the emotions of it, and then you're also doing the physiological response of it. There's a back and forth about it a lot, and there's like several theories. I think probably at minimum 6, because there's also the cognitive appraisal theory that I wanted to get into, but I felt like it was a lot for me to understand in order to explain. And so I feel like if I can't explain it in simple terms, then I don't need to be talking about it yet. And so I'm gonna go with what I can verbalize. And so I do get the CBT, so that's Cannon-Bard theory. I just don't feel like saying that over and over. But I do feel like the CBT theory lands a lot more. But it was so interesting, though, because when I was first doing my research with this, I was for JLT, the James Lange theory, because I'm like, yeah, it happens in a process. Like, you can't have the physiological response without understanding, or you can't have the emotional response without understanding physiologically what's happening to your body. I feel like now, though, they definitely can happen at the same time, because I feel like our bodies and our brains are so amazing that they can do 2 things at once. Like, even though we can't multitask in our walking life, our body is absolutely capable of multitasking. Like, I'm literally thinking, breathing, and talking right now. So, even though before I ain't believe James and Lange, is it Lange or Lange? Because it is Lange. I was feeling y'all, but now I'm like, no, I think that it's possible for it to happen twice or happen at the same time. I think 2 things can happen at once. That's what I'm feeling with. So let me know in the comments what y'all think it is, or if there's another theory of emotion that you're vibing with that you feel like works for you specifically. So that's my perspective when it comes to the science behind it. Of course, there's always more to learn, and I encourage you and implore you to do so. Ooh, you know that one eyeball scratch that you just, Lord. Okay, let me stop. So, my next segment, y'all, I can't make this shit up. That's the name of it. I can't make this shit up. This is a story time. And it's funny because what I have in my notes is this peculiar woman from work. And I don't like to talk about a lot of the things that happen at my job, because I don't know if anybody at my job watches my podcast. And they're gonna see me talking about them. But yeah, I had a very strange interaction with someone at work the other day, and I can tell it came from a place for them that they were seeking knowledge and they wanted to learn from me. But I feel like there's a difference in seeking knowledge and having intelligent conversation, or just trying to take all the knowledge that I have so you can possess it for yourself. And that's what I felt like, and that's what I felt like was happening. So this individual comes into my office, and this individual comes into my office, and at first they were inquiring about something job related, so completely cool. But then eventually it goes into them telling me about their age, and how whenever they were growing up, and how, or being in this office of diversity, you know, the language is changing all the time. And so they go forward to tell me that, yeah, whenever they were growing up, you know, they didn't know African American, Black, and then said Negro, and looked me dead in my face and said Negro. And so I'm sitting there. And so that's why I feel like the Cannon-Bard theory happens at the same time, because I did feel my heart rate increase And I also was pissed off because I'm just like, the hell are you saying to me right now? I'm like, so you telling me back in the day, you know, whenever you would have maybe been around my grandmother, you would have been calling her a Negro because that's what you were taught. And so I go on to let her know that, you know, it's largely disrespectful, extremely ignorant, and then handed her a book because, one, it is not the responsibility of the oppressed to teach the oppressor. But I am open to having conversations. And so before I handed her the book, I asked her, you know, why are you sharing this with me? Why are we talking about this? And she was like, they were letting me know, like, I want to learn. I want to make sure that I'm not hurting anybody's feeling. I want to make sure that I'm not speaking out of turn and blah, 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 blah. And so that's when I explained to her, like, a big part of working in this office is listening, hearing, being open to hearing different. Wow, that tea is making a bitch burp. Oh my lamb. Let me get this water. Hold on, y'all. And my nose is all funny. It's making the burp worse. Woo. Okay. So that's when I explained, like, the whole purpose of being in this space is about learning and being open and being understanding and being willing to learn. It's not about having everything right all the time. The conversation got worse, quite frankly. Just more questions or inappropriate statements, to which eventually I gave another book about, because again, pick up a book, read a book. But yeah, I can't make this shit up. This person came into my office and basically called me a Negro, a negress, if you will. And I was so thrown off. Because I'm like, how do I work in the Office of Diversity and literally being discriminated against right in front of me? Like, my supervisor's office is right there. I was like, you can't make this shit up. And then just goes on to talk about not knowing or not having access to their history and what's happening in the world and all this stuff. And I'm like, you do realize you're talking to somebody from the African diaspora. Like, I may not know exactly where I'm from in Africa or exactly, you know, what tribe or any of those things, but I am of African descent. And you're trying to sit in my face and tell me about not knowing your history. I was perplexed. I was perplexed. And so that's why I'm rocking with CBT right now, that theory, because I thought like it had to be the step-by-step process, but I do think it's situational still. And so for me, that interaction that I had, which again, I can't make this shit up. I still see this person looking me dead in my eyes, being like dead ass, being dead ass about this. And so because I guess in a way they were being vulnerable, like coming in and sharing their truth and speaking their truth, I can honor that. But the level of ignorance was definitely disappointing. I can't make this shit up. That person came right in my office and sat the fuck down and was like, yeah, so oh my gosh. I was so thrown off. And I know my face does not lie. My face does not lie. And I feel like that's why they kind of started backpedaling or two-stepping through the rest of the conversation. Because I just was like... Because in my brain, I'm like, did you just call me a nigger? Did you come sit in my office and call me a nigger? Blown. The one thing that kept going over and over and over in my brain was, ask them why they are asking you this. Ask them why they are asking you. Ask them why they are mentioning this. Why? Like, why? And I got my answer, and it helped me to understand where this person's perspective was and where they were coming from. And I hope those books are very helpful for them, because my. And it's actually a great segue into my next segment. because it's called Pick Up a Fucking Book. Pick up a fucking book. And so when it comes to our emotions, one of the books that I feel like you genuinely need, like you need this book that if something happens to you and the first thing you do is text someone or call someone, like what I was talking about. That was talking about? I don't know if it was in this clip, but what I was saying was, if something happens to you and the first thing you do is reach out to somebody to decide how you want to feel, the truth of the matter is that you don't trust yourself in your own experience. Like you don't trust that if something happened and that shit hurt your feelings, you have to go confirm with someone else that it did hurt your feelings. Stop looking for that confirmation. They're your feelings. It's your experience. Because you may go to someone else and it just may not be that deep to them. And it very well might not be that deep to them, but it is that deep for you. So you need the book called What Happened to You. And it's by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. And so what I love about this book is that it really helps me see the humanity in my experience. I think a lot of times people really sleep on how dope it is to be a human, like a walking, breathing human being, and being able to acknowledge all of the systems that are happening inside us. Like they're multitasking, your body's multitasking like fuck, okay? And so when all that is happening in order to keep you alive, and that some traumatic shit actually does happen, it affects you no matter if it's a big T trauma or a little T trauma. Like it's still going to impact that, right? And so for me, this book really breaks down trauma's anatomical and chemical responses and the causes and effect of it in your body, but still leaves a lot of room for you to understand the human experience. And so this book will talk about case studies, kind of, sort of, from Dr. Perry, because he's a PhD and a medical doctor, and I'm pretty sure his PhD was in like psychological counseling or trauma or something like that. But he talks about cases that he's had with certain people and what he's done in order to build trust or to gain trust, and what that looks like in the brain. Like even knowing that if you can't reach the full frontal lobe, like if you can't get to the frontal lobe of your brain, this is where all your decision making happens. This is where like your highest level of cognitive function can happen. But if you're so traumatized, or if you're not present enough, you literally lose parts of your brain. Like you lose access to parts of your brain. And so some of us, I feel like, are working from our brainstem, and the brainstem's only job is literally to keep you fucking alive. That's its only job. And so, well, there's several jobs it probably has, but for the most part. But if you're only making decisions based off survival, you want to get to where you're thriving. We want to get to this frontal lobe up here, especially when you turn 25, that shit busts open. I don't know why my brain wanting to say like a stripper on a pole, but I'm going to rock with it. That shit busts open just like that. And that's what happened for me. But for so long, I was making decisions that were maybe a step or two up from my brainstem. I was in survival mode. And so this book really breaks that down. And so I feel like if you're one of those people that the first thing you do is try to run to someone for them to validate your feelings, to validate your experience, you need this book. And it is called What Happened to You. And I love the title of that book because a lot of times whenever we see people doing something wrong or they don't have proper quote unquote behavior, we always say, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with them? It's the wrong question. What happened? What happened to you? And so I basically said a little bit of this today, but I want to make sure that, because I wrote it down, I put it in quotes for myself. And so I'm going to say it again. And it is, I am no longer punishing myself for not doing better when I didn't know better, but I am holding myself accountable for when I knew better and didn't do better. When you know better, do better, no matter how difficult it is, no matter what you lose in the process, because at the end of the day, you know what is best for you. You know what is going to make you your best self. That's literally why for my coaching business, the symbol is the owl, because it speaks to the intuitiveness, the intelligence, the calmness. And I also love owls because they hunt with their ears. They hear their prey. They can attack mice, mouse, whatever, under a foot of snow because they can hear them. And so whenever you slow down enough to really be present in your body and to hear everything, to be knowledgeable, you are built with everything you need to be successful. When you came out the womb, you were enough. And every day you are whole and complete. It is the choices that you make that make you feel empty. So when you know better, or if you even think there's an inkling of you knowing that this is something that you probably should not be participating in, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a job, whether that's activities you do for yourself, if you're drinking too much, if you're smoking too much, you know, but you don't trust yourself. Build the trust in yourself and feel your feelings. Feel your motherfucking feelings, because they're indicators. They're not finite. It's not like I throw this way up, standing 10 toes. Yes, you should, but understand that there's emotions that you can move through. There's emotions that you can grow through. Jealousy is an emotion that you can grow through. Making sure I covered all my notes. I did. So, with that being said, trust yourself, learn to trust yourself, feel your feelings, and honor your feelings. And with that, thank you for joining me on another episode of The Inside Perspective. Go stretch and drink some water. Your back look real tight and your hips is off.